on today's show, we have with us Som. Once again, Som is a flat earther who thinks obviously the Earth is not a globe, and that gravity is in fact a lie that has been taught to us because the schools want to indoctrinate us. Speaking to them about gravity is the illustrious Dr. PhD Tony, who is one of the smartest people that I know, and is always a pleasure to have on the channel because I learn what I'm wrong about when he is talking. So please enjoy, and remember, I can see if you're dancing when the intro's on or not, so start dancing. I should probably play the music for that,
Dancing to the bar, hey, dancing to a club, hey, ooh. It's like wishing that the devil was your neighbor. Wishing that the devil was your neighbor. Dancing to a club, hey, ooh. Dancing to a club, hey, ooh. It's like wishing that the devil was your neighbor. Wishing that the devil was your neighbor. Dancing to a club, hey, ooh. Listen to the fly, hey, ooh. It's like wishing the suspense.
A disc floating through space with a tiny sun.
Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you being here. If you could do me a massive favor and like the stream, but most importantly share the stream. Share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, share it with random people in the street that really don't want to talk to you. When they run away, chase after them and make sure they've subscribed. If they scream for help, cover their mouth and subscribe for them. It's very simple. How to help grow my channel 101. We are here today to have a flat earth debate tonight, and I haven't really talked about a format, so how do you guys want to do it? Tony, would you maybe like to do a little presentation about gravity? Just
Sure.
quick, short and sweet if that's okay, and then maybe Som can just respond. I've given Som all the information that you've given me, and he's had a brief look over it. But maybe just a quick introduction to everyone about the topic that we'll be talking about from the most knowledgeable person in the room is the best way to go. What do you think?
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Well,
I
straight
can
away
share my
over to you
screen.
then. Yeah, absolutely. Let me make sure that's turned on because, of course, I'm a professional and I prepare these things. There we go.
Okay. So the first point where sort of variations in gravity became significant was in the development of the pendulum. It turns out that the period of the pendulum is approximately dependent on the square root of the ratio between length and local gravity. And people were able to use pendulums to work out that local gravity varied. They took pendula to the West Indies, the Caribbean, and they were able to see variations. Other people noticed that there were deflections from the plumb bobs, that the plumb bobs weren't pointing directly down. If you have two ways of determining your position on the Earth. One is by surveying a bunch of points, and the other one is by celestial observation, looking at which stars are directly overhead. And Pierre Bouguer noticed that there was a 7 arcsecond deflection towards the mountain, that he was getting different results from the stars than he was from the ground. The same systematic error was noticed by when they surveyed the Mason-Dixon survey, and Henry Cavendish pointed out that it could be due to the gravitational attraction of the Allegheny Mountains. This is the same Henry Cavendish who developed the Cavendish experiment, and these observations inspired the Schiehallion experiment, which was able to determine that the Mount Schiehallion would attract a mass towards it, and you could measure that. Now, you may be thinking that perhaps there's a problem with the surveying techniques, and this again came up in the Great Trigonometric Survey of India, where Archdeacon Pratt demonstrated that it was not the surveying techniques, that the surveying techniques produced errors that were way too small to explain this. And what was happening instead was that the azimuthal sectors, the telescopes that were supposed to be pointing straight up, were not actually pointing straight up. They were pointing along the normal to the geoid, but that is not geometrically towards the center of the Earth. So this phenomenon is called a vertical deflection, and it's well known. Studies went on to more sophisticated instruments like Baron Yotvosh's gradiometer, which was developed in the early 20th century. As I explained last time, this has been used to find the Nash oil dome. We also use it today to navigate submarines passively. This is a pendulum-based gravimeter that was used by Venning-Manej in the early 20th century to map the ocean floor. And here's a gravity map of the ocean floor. These were used by submarines in the 1960s, but in the 1980s, they developed gravity gradiometers. We've developed more sophisticated instruments. This is the Lacoste FG5X. It's that silver thing on top is the drop cylinder. That's where the carriage, that's this thing over to the right, is dropped, and its motion is measured by laser pulses bounced off the retroreflector there. It's a very sophisticated instrument. This is a schematic for a cold atom gravimeter, which uses a cloud of supercool atoms. Here's a paper discussing the use of supercool atoms to measure the strength of the gravitational field. This is a superconducting gravimeter. It uses superconductors to suspend a niobium ball, as you can see on the right. If the ball moves, it will induce a current in these superconducting wires that will instantly push it back. So by recording the currents that go through these wires, we can record any accelerations that have been placed on the ball. And I'll come back to that a little bit. Gravity is used in mineral exploration all the time. Here are some examples of borehole gravimetry. Here are some examples of airborne gravimeters. These are gravimeters that you can put on a helicopter or a plane in order to do a survey. I'm not going to get into too much of the detail there. This is a really interesting one that we might talk about later. But here's an example of one in use, and we also use them on ships. In the late 20th century, we started doing satellite-based. We did CHAMP, we did GOCHE, and this is the mission that I worked on, which is the Grace Acceleration, the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment is what it's called. And this is our understanding of the gravitational field now. You can see that it isn't uniform and that sea level is not constant. Anyway, I guess I'll save any more technical detail for when we get into the discussion with Som.
Well, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you, Tony. Very easy to follow. The pendulum is, in the way that it was developed, the way that it detects gravity is so simple that even a flat earther should be able... Oh, wait, no, never mind. Don't know why I even thought that would be a good thing to say. Anyway, Som, over to you, my friend. I would like to give you the floor to ask PhD Tony. Please do me a favor, ask him some questions, but keep it to one question at a time. Try not to interrupt when Tony is giving you a response. Bear in mind that responses to questions can be rather lengthy as they require you to understand certain nuance. So if Tony is trying to explain something, don't keep interrupting, because that can actually ruin the flow of the thought and everything. So just try and be respectful of the fact that Tony is a doctor. Tony understands the subject very well, and you are basically here to learn from him, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So
please
the
go
floor
ahead.
is open?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I've heard the rumors greatest straw of all time, dangerous, curious, has too many questions. And my personal favorite, the reason moderators like Craig and MC Tune keep antacids nearby. So today I'm debating a real PhD holder, a person who has spent more time studying gravimetry than I've spent arguing with computers, network switches, organized sound in music production, and psychosocial counseling sessions, to name just a few. So Dr. Tony, whom I believe is a geophysicist, right? You specialized in using gravitational measurements to detect gases, other things like liquids and solid layers beneath the earth, and apparently also to help submarines stay sneaky, I guess. Who knew science was basically Batman technology? So now, don't get me wrong, a PhD is impressive, very impressive, but it's not an automatic win argument button. Respect, absolutely. Blind obedience. I'm more of an ask awkward questions until someone regrets inviting me for exposing their scams kind of person. So I'm here because I'm open to learning, but learning starts with questioning, especially questioning the things that I don't understand. If someone says gravimetry proves the Earth is a spinning pebble in space, you better politely ask, cool down, how do you know? Before we all just accept it and go home. Now, listen, I give credit where it's due. A PhD is major achievement, years of study, mountains of research, oceans of coffee, but it doesn't make someone the grand emperor of truth. It's not like you walk across the graduation stage and instantly download the entire universe. It just means you specialize deeply, very deeply in a topic like gravimetry. So meanwhile, I specialized widely, very widely in asking questions that make experts sigh deeply, a bit. But here's the thing. I'm not here to mock science or shut down ideas. I'm here because I love learning, just with a healthy dose of skepticism, of course, curiosity, and to prove that to me
Go ahead
in
and
a
ask
way
your
that
first
makes
question
sense.
then.
Please. So if someone says the Earth is a spinning ball with molten lava inside and invisible forces holding oceans upside down, I'm going to be like, interesting. Show me how we know that. And you'll be pointing volcanoes. I'll accept that to be true. Molten lava does exist. What of gravity? How do I get convinced? I question things not because I want to win, but because that's how humans figure out stuff. Testing ideas is the whole point. So, yeah, let's begin. We've got gravity, mass measurements, and detection of hidden materials beneath the Earth. And in space, I suppose we're going to talk about that later on. Science, and probably at least one moment where the PhD wonders if debating a flat earther was in his employment contract before venturing in such field. And if he graduated after complete trial, because, yeah, he might graduate, but was the trial well enough? So, from your previous little presentation, you talked about pendulum for gravimeter. So, a magnetic field can influence a pendulum's motion in two primary ways. So the first one is through direct magnetic forces. If the pendulum has a magnetic component attached, or by inducing what they call eddy currents in the bulb. So that is made of an electrical conductor. So there are two things: direct magnetic force or electrical conductors like copper or aluminium, leading to a damping effect. So which current do your pendulums and gravimeter use? Because clearly magnetic fields are fundamental to gravity. But according to science, magnetic fields are not gravity, but they are fundamental to how it works. So which current do your pendulums use in gravimetry? Is it magnetic or electrical?
So the Your question is ill-formed. Pendulums don't use currents and don't use magnetism.
But magnetism has influence. Magnetic fields.
Not if we make the pendulum rod out of new metal, or if we make it out of non-magnetic materials. You understand that there are non-magnetic materials, right?
It depends if you give me an example of what material you refer to.
Okay. Do you think that plastic is magnetic?
Well, according to all things, according to science, I think we talk about all things emit discharge. All matter on Earth as a level of discharge. So I think
Discharge of what?
electromagnetic discharge.
Electromagnetic discharge. Okay.
According to science.
Please bring up a paper suggesting that everything produces an electromagnetic discharge.
You just spoke of plastic. Plastic is.
Yes, I spoke of plastic. You made a claim. Please.
It doesn't exist
substantiate
in
your
natural
claim.
state. Plastic is man-made.
Plastic is man-made. Wood is not man-made.
Yeah, you should have given that example. Yeah. So my question is, what current?
Why should I have given that
What?
example?
Because I would rather we debate about natural things.
In science, the term natural describes anything that is not supernatural. So anything that is physical is natural. Plastic is physical, therefore it is natural.
Yeah, so in flat Earth science, natural refers
There
to
is no
anything
such
that
thing
is-
as flat earth science.
So what science are you using?
I'm just
Robert?
using ordinary science.
Conventional?
Yes.
Define ordinary science.
There is no uniform definition of science. This is called the partition problem, the demarcation problem. That's what it's called. There is no one-size-fits-all definition of science or pseudoscience. If you had studied the philosophy of science at all, you would know that this is an open problem, and you would not ask such meaningless questions.
Okay, so what do you call materials that are processed rather than exist naturally, but we just
Artificial.
made by man? Yeah, so is artificial natural?
Yes. Artificial in the scientific context, artificial mean artificial things that are physical, and all artificial
Okay,
things
so
are
you
physical,
said
are
the
natural
scientific
because
context,
they're
what of-
physical.
yes.
Physical and natural are the same, mean the same thing in science. But you are just trying to derail the conversation.
No,
Yes,
we're there.
you
So
are.
we bring it to the philosophy of nature as no artificial.
No, Som, we're supposed to be talking about gravity. And you saw
Okay,
this
so
presentation
this-
and you pissed your pants because you know that there's a lot of data here that you have no idea about, and a lot of observations that you have no capacity to explain.
Cool.
So you are doing
get
your
back.
best to try and derail the conversation and get it stuck in the weeds of what is natural, or what natural means, or what is artificial,
so-
or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. For that, right. Point of
argument-
clarification for the purposes.
Made a claim. I'm not
For
finished
argument's
speaking.
sake, you win.
You
I
made a
give derail.
claim
I'm
that
not going to
everything
derail.
produces electrical
again.
discharge. I want you to substantiate
exactly-
that claim. Why are you making that claim?
We're making that claim because it's proven that pendulums, magnetic fields, can influence a pendulum's motion, and that is in two ways.
And the degree to which that is true,
Indirect.
the
Let me
degree to which
finish.
that is
Let me finish. Let me complete.
Hey, right, guys, right. Let's take a second. Everyone, reset. And right, there's a lot of talking over from both sides, so let's try and chill. Right, Som, let's try and state your question, clearly, so that Tony can understand, and give Tony a chance to respond to your inquiry. Okay, so please just state your question nice and clearly for us.
Good. So Dr. Tony, you did choose yourself to bring up the swinging pendulum into the argument. So now my
Was
take
that a
is
question?
What is your question,
Presented.
Sam? Yeah.
Yeah,
What is
so my
You're
question.
supposed to be asking me a question. Please
Yeah, so the
do
question
so.
is, which current do your pendulums in gravimeter use, and what material are the pendulums in the gravimeter instruments or technique made of?
That depends on the gravimeter. It varies from gravimeter to gravimeter.
Which one did you present?
I presented at least 5.
Yeah, so we all of them, let's go through all of them. Are they made of the same material or different
No,
materials?
they're not.
Good. Go through the first through the fourth.
Okay, let's go through the superconducting gravimeter. It has a niobium ball which is suspended in an electromagnetic field, surrounded by, maintained by superconductors. If any acceleration is applied to the niobium ball,
Pendulum. We don't need that information. Can come later on. Let's focus on the pendulum.
He's talking about the pendulum, Sam. Yeah.
You just asked about the pendulums in gravimeters.
Yes.
I responded, there aren't pendulums in all gravimeters. You said,
yes.
in the gravimeters, and I said, well, let's look at this one, and now you want to go back and talk about pendulums.
I went through your document and the SG
pendulum
does not
gravimetry.
have...
Pendulum gravimetry has
I went through
been
the conductors.
pendulum gravimetry has been largely obsolete for about 100 years, right?
Yeah, the
We do
superconductor does
not
not
use
contain
pendulum gravimeters
pendulum.
anymore.
Sure.
You
So
cannot
let's-
have heard my explanation because you were talking through it the entire time.
Okay. Do I have?
Okay,
right.
let's skip to the
if I need
pendulum.
to, I can go to like 30-second back and forward. I don't want to have to do that, but Sam, could you please just give Tony the chance to finish what he's saying? He's just trying to explain to you that gravimeters are all different. They don't all have pendulums, and the ones that do have pendulums have been replaced by things that
so
are better.
Focus on the ones that do have pendulums, so we save the time going through pendulums which do not. Yeah, you know,
Right,
it's like
so-
smashing through
Right,
all the
so
doors.
let's do it this way then, Tom. Do you have a specific question about the pendulum gravimeters, bearing in mind they do not use a current to operate? Do you have a question about them?
Yeah, I have a question. If
Yeah.
there's a pendulum in the gravimeter system that uses, if there's a gravimeter instrument, your updated gravimeter instrument that uses a pendulum, let's talk about that and what the material in that pendulum is composed of.
No,
Because
there
if it's
isn't.
plastic,
We don't use pendulums in gravimeters anymore.
yeah. So, but you started out with the history of when pendulums were used, right?
Yes, history would be
Or
the
maybe you
past.
forgot.
That would be stuff that is not being done now.
Yes. So in the old
Okay.
pendulums, the material had magnetic field interference and electrical
So
conduction.
yes.
So why did you bring
would
up
have,
pendulums
except
when
that
you
we
don't
can
use them?
except that we can determine how big that effect is, and we can determine that it is small. Yes, that is a source of error in
It's an error.
pendulums that use metal weights and metal rods. Yes, but nowadays we could make carbon fiber rods and carbon fiber weights, and the eddy
Okay,
currents that would be and
just-
the eddy
Wait,
currents.
I
of
Some-
think
wait,
this is
some-
time wasted.
I am still
This is
answering
time
your
wasted.
question. I
No,
am still
don't answer that
answering your
question.
Sam,
question.
stop. Right, Sam,
I
Tony
have
was
a
in the
point
middle
to
of the
make.
sentence. I've asked you nicely to let Tony finish what he is saying. All right.
It's irrelevant.
What I'm going to do
It's
is I'm
irrelevant.
going to mute you for a second
If
to let
we-
Tony finish his thought.
No,
and
don't
then we can
mute.
come back to you.
Let me
Okay.
just say something.
All right.
No,
Sorry, Tony.
Sam.
Please finish your thought.
Okay. If we were making pendulums today, we could make them of things that were vastly less susceptible to magnetic influences or eddy currents. We could make it out of carbon fiber. A couple of 100 years ago, material science wasn't so advanced, and the pendulums were made out of metal, and were subject to eddy currents and were subject to magnetic influences. We do our best in modern designs to create instruments where that noise is minimized or eradicated. That is why we don't use pendulums anymore.
Okay, Som, please unmute yourself and respond. That's what we need to do. Yeah. I could turn your camera off as well, buddy. I've asked you to unmute and please respond to what Tony's just said.
So here's the thing. If we're gonna debate gravity, let's not. Are you getting me?
Yeah. Do you have a response to what he's just said?
I don't have a response because I want to make a statement first. If we're gonna debate about gravity, let's not go to the past. I mean, we're having this debate because we want to talk about gravimetry in the updated systems. So if a pendulum does not exist or is not in deployment today, let's not talk about. This is not a debate about pendulums or odd methods, because we already debunked the pendulum.
So can I just point out how idiotic what you just said was? I introduced the history of the subject and I discussed pendulums. You started asking a bunch of questions about pendulums, knowing that they were historical techniques, knowing that we use far more sophisticated techniques now, and now you're lecturing us about let's not talk about the past.
There is no sophisticated.
You're the person who diverted this conversation into something that you no longer want to talk about.
There is no sophisticated pendulum in your current patents, so why bring it up?
Okay, right. If you don't want to talk about the pendulum, that's fine.
So simple that you may be able to understand.
Don't take me for simple.
Obviously, I overestimated your intellectual abilities.
Yeah. Don't bring up 5th grade science. Let's move to university stuff.
Let's move to 3rd grade science that you may stand a chance of understanding.
All right.
Don't be a teacher.
Some. If you don't want to talk about pendulums, then you need to ask a question relevant to something else that Tony brought up
I did.
Right, Some.
What
I'm the moderator and I was talking.
And he says there are no pendulums in gravimeters. Why bring it up?
Okay, Some.
You asked about pendulums, right. Som. You brought it up.
Yeah. Okay. So, Som, you appear to be trying to derail the conversation. Pendulums were in Tony's presentation as part of the history of how we use gravity. Okay? Please don't unmute yourself unless I ask you to. Okay? What I want you to do is, if you don't want to talk about pendulums, that's fine. You don't get to discuss pendulums. That's your decision. I would like you to ask a question to Tony about something else in his presentation. It is your decision to not talk about pendulums, and we as the audience will all see that you don't want to talk about pendulums because Tony showed they prove gravity. So now it's up to you to bring the conversation back and ask Tony a question about his presentation that doesn't include pendulums. The floor is yours. No meta talk about the debate or your feelings. Please just ask Tony a question about his presentation.
Okay, so first off, it was my decision to talk about pendulums because Tony brought up the pendulum.
Right. So I specifically said do not talk meta debate. All right. I'm going to unmute you and I want you to just ask Tony a question about his presentation that does not include pendulums. Okay. Thank you.
So unless if I was, I didn't pay much attention to the whole presentation, but much of it was about pendulums. So I don't see
I'm trying so hard.
How I'm going to ask any other questions. Maybe we can just move on to the techniques in gravimeter. Because the only thing I picked up was pendulums.
So do you have a question about the techniques in gravimetry?
No, you haven't yet presented.
He literally did. Tony, I'm so sorry.
So that was your presentation for the day?
So I have many presentations on the measurement of gravity, but why would I show them to you? You just confessed that you don't listen.
Okay, let me bring up my.
This is what I'm getting from this is that this is a complete waste of my time. Because you don't listen to what I say, and then just disagree with what I say.
Yeah, your first presentation was a sheer waste of time. So in a polite way.
Well, then, so Son, talking to you is a complete waste of time. You are not actually a good faith interlocutor. You are not here to learn. You said in your opening discussion that you wanted to learn. And then you admit that you didn't listen. Then you admit that you didn't listen to a thing I said other than the first slide, which was about pendulums. That was as far as you got. And then you decided, screw this learning stuff. I'm not even going to pretend to learn. You didn't take any notes during the discussion. You haven't asked me to go back and clarify anything. So look, you are not a good faith interlocutor. You are not an honest person. You are a disgrace to your religion. And as much as people seem to find you amusing to laugh at, you are deeply creepy when you have any interaction with anything with a female affect. Since you're not going to listen to what I say, you're not going to listen to my presentations, I'm not inclined to indulge you anymore. And I think that it is harmful to you to receive the attention that you receive, because that's what you're in this for, is to receive attention and to be talked about. That is your psychological motivation for being here. You're not here to learn. You're not here to seek the truth. You're just
the whole
here to
point
have
that we had set this debate set up, we were going to talk about gravimeters and why you.
Yes, we were. And then you decided to not listen to anything that I say.
Okay, I have a question.
All right, Som. Right, let's do it. Right, if you want this debate to continue, you need to do Som. You need to ask one. If you want this debate to continue, you need to ask a very clear and concise question to Tony about gravimetry or gravimeters. All right, not just techniques. Ask a specific question about something that you disagree with, and maybe explain why you disagree.
All right, can I share the screen?
I guess so.
I have something. I have a lot of things. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. Is it visible? Okay, so let's talk about the SG instrument, the superconductor. So first off, it uses magnetic force. So to balance gravity in gravimeters, which is sorry.
No, sorry, that was me. My bad.
Yeah. So which is important? Is my screen moving like this? Is it?
Yeah,
is it
yeah, we can all see it.
Okay.
For better or for worse.
The SG instrument uses magnetic force to balance gravity in gravimeters, which is important because it allows for the creation of a nearly frictionless and highly stable suspension system for the test. So that is shock resistance and stability. So that's what the claim is. There is magnetic impulse, according to me. All I can see from these is emission of magnetic impulse, like in the metal detectors, techniques. And seismometers are suspended by a spring in the superconductor attached to the instrument support. So a change in gravity or motion of the ground.
No, there are no springs in a superconducting gravimeter.
No, I mean in the sensors, seismometers.
So in seismometers, yes, there are springs in many seismometers.
Yes. So a change in gravity or motion of the ground moves the test mass, and this motion generates a voltage that becomes the output signal. One of the technique used in metal detectors is pulse induction. So the electrical impulse method is called pulse induction. So what is pulse induction? This is the electrical impulse method that sends short bursts, pulses of energy current. So bringing it to the submarine environment, sonar salt poses can only be detected by modern passive sonar systems, which brings us to that argument of the claim
How
that
is
you
this
made.
in any sense relevant to
No,
superconducting gravimeters?
No, I'm just giving you an example because gravimeters
You're
are
not
used
giving
in
any examples whatsoever of anything.
submarines.
You're not
Can I
talking about, you're supposed to be talking about superconducting
You're
gravimeters.
interrupting.
They have
Yes, I'm not
nothing to
done.
do, they have nothing
I'm
to
there.
do with submarines. Stay on topic.
So, no, I'm on topic because Craig did suggest that your technology is brought by the Navy. They use it in submarine to navigate quietly.
Yes, but you're talking about
Yes.
superconducting gravimeters which are not used in this role.
No, I'm just giving you an example of. Look, I'm even lost. Man. Can I just give me 2 minutes to present, and you can.
All right,
you
maybe
can,
maybe
yeah,
I come
you can
out
take
with a
note.
point. We'll give him 2 minutes.
Yeah, you can write down the rebuttals and all that. So short sonar poses can only be detected by modern passive sonar systems, and I believe your claim of saying when the sonar is shut down and the radar is shut down, they deploy the gravimeter system to move quietly. And I think those are just short bursts of magnetic impulse, which can only be detected by modern passive sonar system. So the sonar, the pulse induction, quite works in seismometers and partial pressure of helium gas in a separate cavity inside the coils. So there is helium in your instrument produced naturally over. Okay, helium. How is this helium produced in the? So there are ions from the radioactivity decays of elements. Most natural gases contain trace amounts of helium. So helium gas moves from the Earth interior into the atmosphere through several natural processes. I think you agree with me that there's some the chemical helium. You know much about your instruments, but there's helium involved in it. So gas detection relies heavily in interaction specific to the target gas in other techniques of trying to measure the presence of gases. And in a sense, it uses the properties of that same type of gas. So there's this gas. When you're trying to detect gas, you use the properties of that same specific gas to detect its presence. And I believe the gravimeter uses helium because helium is found in most, there are traces of helium in almost most of the gases. So these sensors use a chemical reaction specific to the target gas. And you claim it is gravity, but I think it's the induction of helium. Yeah, there's the induction process of helium. So there's balancing of the force of gravity.
Just to bring it back around, Tom, where is the question for Tony?
Yeah, I'm coming to the question.
Okay, good.
Since he refused to, I was going to give my take after he presents the whole thing, and then I was going to present a little bit and then ask questions. But since the tables are changed, unless he wants to go through his presentation so that I counter present as well. But this is how we're going to do it.
Well, yeah. So just
should I continue?
I will not be dictated to by you on the format of this debate.
Yeah.
Good. So
please just ask the question. Some just ask the question. What we want to do is for you to ask a question. Ask a question, please.
Okay. Let's move on to the questions then. Let's
please.
skip.
Just one question. Very specific. Just one. That's what we want. Just one question.
So I have one. So gravimetry typically measures the total mass of an object, but cannot determine its composition from the gravitational reading. So how does your gravimetry technique overcome this fundamental limitation to identify the object mass in a meaningful way? Take note, mass is the measure of the amount of matter in an object. But in your test, you cannot determine the composition, okay, of the object. And mass is a measurement of the amount of matter in an object. So different objects, different matter. But gravity is unable to tell what the matter is. So which is determined by its atoms and molecules. You identify mass, but cannot tell the matter. So I feel it's incomplete mass, which the gravimeter detects. Solid and liquid objects do not inherently share the same mass. With gravimetry, you claim to know the mass. So the gravimetry technique itself does not directly tell you the specific type or material composition of an object. So how is it mass? Because mass and matter go in relation.
Okay, Tony, the question, I guess, is how does it measure mass?
Well, no. The question
knowing
was how does gravimetry determine the composition of mass? It doesn't.
Then it's not mass.
That is an idiotic statement.
What's the definition of mass?
The definition of mass is resistance to acceleration by force, or equivalently, that which generates a gravitational potential. These are the two scientific definitions for mass.
No, there's one other definition. Mass is the
No,
measure
there
of the
isn't.
amount
I
of matter
suggest you look up the definition
in an
of mass
object.
because you're just wrong.
So you change up this definition to justify your stance.
No, I am not changing up the definition. Allow me to share my screen.
Go ahead.
Mass has always been the measure of amount of matter in an object.
No, it hasn't.
Period.
Tom, you just don't know what mass is.
Maybe you're talking about a different mass.
No, I'm not talking about different mass. I'm talking about...
I've literally got my high school science textbooks where it says that mass is resistance to inertia, which is acceleration due to force.
No, resistance. Right,
You
scientists...
say no to you too, Greg. This is a no professor today.
Right. It was traditionally believed to be related to the quantity of matter. Mass in modern physics has multiple definitions which are conceptually distinct but physically equivalent. Mass can be experimentally defined as a measure of the body's inertia, meaning the resistance to acceleration. The object's mass also determines the strength of its gravitational attraction to other bodies. That is the definition of mass in modern science.
So, is the mass in liquid and the mass in objects, solids, the same?
Yes.
The mass of liquid and the mass of solid is the same,
Yes.
but they don't share the same matter.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Mass is
So how is it the
independent
same?
of chemistry. Mass is independent of chemistry. Mass is independent of phase. So if I have a block of ice of a certain mass and I melt it, it turns into water of the same mass. The mass is not dependent on the phase, whether it's liquid or solid or gas.
I don't think that's correct.
Yes, you don't understand basic high school physics.
Because when you melt water, what happens? There's evaporation of some elements in
You
it.
melt water.
It doesn't. Yeah, the liquid, the
No,
gas
that-
escapes. How is the mass going to be the same?
If you
Water.
keep the system closed and you don't allow it to escape, the mass of water in vapor, in liquid, in solid form inside your container remains the same. Mass is conserved on a local level.
You just said if you keep it closed.
Conservation of mass. Are you familiar with conservation of mass?
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Okay,
When you melt a liquid, the elements escape. There's some elements which escape, which are gaseous.
So not if you close the system. If you put it inside a closed container and you melt it, the mass inside there will still be the same.
Yeah,
That only changes if there's some sort of molecular escape. where you allow molecules to escape the system. Sure, there is some mass loss in that case. On the other hand,
Yeah.
if you're in equilibrium, then there will be molecules from the atmosphere that dissolve into the fluid. So if you're in an equilibrium situation, the rate of outgassing and ingassing becomes the same.
Yeah.
Your confusion here is that you don't understand that mass is just a different concept from phase. Whether or not something is solid or liquid is independent of how massive it is.
Yeah. So conservation of mass only works in a lab. In the real world,
No,
mass
it
is not
doesn't.
conserved. Yeah, in the real world,
Shut
mass
up,
is not
Craig, you're
conserved.
mod.
Okay.
Only in open systems where you allow stuff to
Yeah.
escape.
Yes.
But we are not discussing this. And
Okay.
it's,
So back to the question.
the
Okay.
question, I've answered the question, and you insist. This is, and I answered this question the other day.
Okay, you've answered this one.
But
Yeah.
I
Cool,
answered
cool.
this question. I've answered this question twice already. I shall
I
go
think you
on
did
for a third
justice.
time.
Okay, I give it to you. You did justice to the question. So mass is the same, and yeah, in one of the definition of conventional science, which disturbed me, it says mass is the measure of the amount of matter. So you just debunked your own. You debunked that, and
No,
yeah, your
I
response
didn't, Tom.
is head. So moving on to the next question. Okay, should we do that?
If you really want to, do you feel like you've been, you've had this answer successfully given? I know you have, but have you comprehended? It doesn't really matter. What am I talking about? Please go ahead and ask your next question, Som. Tony, I owe you a drink. Or 5.
Yeah, I've comprehended the previous response.
Okay, so please go ahead with your next question. Bear in mind you are, probably driving 2 people to alcoholism right now.
Okay, so the next question is, you claim gravimetry technique, it just detects mass of objects, right?
Yes.
So magnetic fields are not constant, but changing all the time, and you take advantage of that. But how?
In what context are you discussing this?
Gravity is not constant. It changes all the
Yes,
time.
gravity
Right?
is not constant. That's correct.
And the reason you have magnetic in the superconductor, right? To stabilize, what does it stabilize?
So there is a constant there is a constant current flowing through the flowing through the superconducting coils.
Yeah. So it is through that stabilizing that you do your measurements, right?
What we measure is the changes in current that are induced by the acceleration of the niobium ball. As the niobium ball undergoes an acceleration, its motion induces a current in the coils around it. We record that change in current.
Yeah. So I'm thinking what gravimetry technique does is it stabilizes the magnetic discharge, and that's how you do your mappings.
So here's an experiment that was done. Here you can see, I'm sharing my screen. You can see in panel A is a superconducting gravimeter set into a recess in the floor. These 2 coils coming into it, that's the inflow and outflow of the refrigerated helium. Making sure that the liquid helium supply is constant. You can see the 3 legs around it, which are used to stabilize its orientation, and you can see the various power for the monitoring coming in. What they did was they placed a 45 kilogram test mass in this case, this child in panel B, on top of the gravimeter for a period of 6 minutes. The resulting gravitational field is shown in this panel on the right. You can see that the downward acceleration has been reduced because this kid introduces an upward acceleration that reduces the downward component of acceleration. So please explain to me how your proposed, so in what is happening under our understanding is that the mass of the child is exerting a force on the niobium sphere that is pulling it towards the child. That is not large enough to actually move the sphere upwards, but it does measurably reduce the downward acceleration on the sphere. Please explain to me in your paradigm what is happening in this experiment.
Clearly a magnetic kid. I don't know.
Okay, so let's put helium as a side note. Just scrolling through something. Just give me a second. But let's put helium as a side note. So to respond, just give me a second. And by the way, I think helium is not just it does not just cool down the system, but it's the core element in
No, you're wrong.
Yeah, no, let me respond.
Oh, when
In
you
your
I'm gonna cry.
It's the core element in your scum. Let me respond. What's this technique? Is it the gravimetry? I forgot what you.
Yeah, you forgot what you were talking
What's the
about
two?
because you don't understand what you're talking about.
No, I do.
But you're prepared to yell at me about a scam, or you're calling me
so-
scum. Whichever it is, you're just being
No,
rude.
because you claim you use gravity. You claim you use gravity.
Yes.
And I tell you that so in this experiment, you are using helium. Because most
Yes.
bodies of nature exert helium. So it's just that it's more like in metal
Does
detectors.
mercury exert helium?
So is the kid, is there mercury involved in this thing that you just showed?
I didn't understand what you were saying.
What's the child comprised of? Is the child comprised of mercury?
No, the child is not comprised
Yeah.
of mercury. But if we put
Yeah.
45 kilograms of mercury on top, it would have the same
No, we are not
gravitational
talking about
effect.
mercury.
Well,
Yeah, so
you could put,
at least
we
talk about
used a
an
child in
element.
this case, but you could use
Yes.
45 kilograms of anything and it would have the
in-
same effect on the test mass. This is the
So
whole
does a
thing
human
about,
exert
this is
some
the
level
whole
of
thing
helium?
about
Does a
gravity.
human
I beg your pardon?
exert some level of helium?
Exert. What does
Yes.
it mean to exert
I think he
helium?
means
Give out an
exude. Put out.
impulse.
Give out
Put
an
out.
impulse of helium.
Yes.
No. Humans do not give out impulses of helium.
In all the elements in the body, there's
No,
potassium,
I can't.
there's some, You know that the blood.
I suggest you look up how much helium there is in the
Iron.
human body.
Yes, simply 0 point something. And it's enough to wake
I
alongside the girl.
suggest you look up precisely how many zeros it is.
Let's do it. So on average, how much helium would a human, would a
But
child?
somebody didn't just say they have. You said they pulse out human helium. Like
Helium, yes.
Yeah, I was because I was getting to the
I
point.
had
all
hair
elements
5
in
years
the-
ago. Then I started talking to
Yeah,
flat
all
earthers.
elements, minerals, and they put out a discharge. Okay, and it's to infinity. So when you use gravimetry on satellite, you're just detecting those discharges.
Discharges of
So now
helium.
I'm thinking,
Can you please bring up?
In this
please
case-
bring up.
in this case,
Please bring up the scientific literature about how much helium is emitted by humans.
In
good.
regular
So
pulses.
Let's go back to the. Let's go back to the slide. Let me share the screen.
That'd be a really bad
no. I
Ekman
want
power.
a scientific paper. I want the scientific paper that discusses helium emissions due to humans.
Not due to humans. I mean, in that experiment, you are talking about gravity, and I'm replacing the gravity with electromagnetic discharge.
Where is the
No,
helium?
you didn't. You said helium discharge.
Yeah.
But we
the human
can.
is
But I
just
can
one.
demonstrate. But I can demonstrate that gravity isn't electromagnetic either.
And that's my
So-
rebuttal. That's my
Well,
rebuttal. I think the gravity.
then you're demonstrably wrong again.
Yeah, you confuse gravity for electromagnetic discharge.
No, we don't.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this.
Well,
There's
you're wrong. So here, for instance, we can trap electrons between inside this apparatus here. These are slow-moving electrons. Slow-moving neutrons.
Oh, I have a point.
That are introduced.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
still
some wait.
explaining. And you can look at the quantum states that they get trapped in between the two reflective surfaces, which is a result. And you can see here the agreement between the observations, which are the red circles, and the theory, which is the green curve. You can see that they agree very, very well, which is an indication that neutrons are influenced by gravity. So neutrons are not affected by electrical fields. So your claim that it is electrical discharges that is causing gravity is immediately debunked by the fact that neutrons fall under gravity.
Why does your instrument contains electrochemical sensors then?
The instrument contains electrochemical sensors in order to monitor the operation. The superconducting gravimeter contains electrochemical sensors to monitor the operation of the machine. Is there any air
but
leaking
did you know-
into it, for instance? Are there any ice crystals that are sort of liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen or ice that are fouling up the baffles, so that grounding across the circuits? These things have to be monitored. So there are a lot of sensors on a superconducting gravimeter to make sure that noise is eliminated. But that doesn't make the basis of operation. That does not make the force on the
and my claim
on the niobium sphere electromagnetic. That's not a valid syllogism.
My claim is that it does, because in other techniques used to detect gas, these electrochemical sensors, these sensors use a chemical reaction specific to the target gas. And I'm telling you, there's helium in the gravimeter because there's also exertion of helium in our natural environment.
You're asserting that this is the case with zero evidence to support it.
Because I have no belief in gravity.
I can again bring up so we have known neutrons fall under gravity for some time.
No, neutrons are just neutrons.
Neutrons are just
Neutrons are just neutrons. Yes.
Yes, they're subatomic particles that have no electrical charge and are not deflected by electrical fields, as far as we can tell. So let me see if I can remember which one it is. Yeah, okay. So again, let me share this. Okay, so here we've got a scientific paper, gravitational acceleration of free neutrons. They fired a beam of neutrons down an instrument, and they had a detector that they moved up and down to detect where the neutrons were. the fast neutrons, and so they were firing them from here. They fired them at 2 speeds. This is a block to sort of filter out all of the ones that are low. And they found out that the fast ones hit higher than the slower ones because that they hit in accordance with gravity. Here's the curve of the observations. Neutrons fall under the influence of gravity. Neutrons are not affected by electrical fields. They are not affected by electrical charge, but they fall under gravity. If gravity were due to electrical charge, gravity would not affect neutrons, but gravity does affect neutrons. Therefore, gravity is not due to electrical charge.
Okay.
Your hypothesis has been disproven.
I won't hold my line of thought. Let me respond to that. Did you also know that neutrons do have their own magnetic properties and can be manipulated
I know that
magnetic fields?
I know that it has not been confirmed that neutrons have an electrical charge. They can be manipulated
by magnetic
They can be
fields.
manipulated by magnetic fields, yes.
Yeah.
But they cannot be. But your claim was that it was electrical charge. Your claim was that it was electrical discharge that was causing gravity, not magnetic fields.
Yes, it can be one way or two days.
So you were wrong
Look,
wrong to suggest that it was electrical discharge, weren't you?
It is magnetic discharge. Yes, I was wrong.
Okay, so it's now you're claiming it's magnetic fields, right?
Yes.
So if I drop a magnet, let me go get one. Here is a magnet. I orientate it. I drop it. Look, it falls. Now I'm going to hold it the other way up. I'm going to reverse its magnetic field. I'm going to drop it again. Oh, it fell downwards. Therefore, the downwards acceleration experienced due to gravity is not due to a magnetic field. We can measure magnetic fields. Magnetic fields vary through time in a way that is very different from gravitational fields.
Wow. So the size of the Earth's core magnetic field, according to you, is only 10% of that thing that you just threw down. Is that what you're telling me? No,
well,
it can never be. That's a nano, it's not even a nanoparticle, it's just too minute.
It's got a much stronger, its magnetic field is much stronger. Its magnetic field is much stronger.
It can never resist.
It can hold
the
itself up to gravity to something that is metal.
But if you brought a probe of a small magnet in the same relation as that, if when you reverse the pose, there would have been repulsion, and that thing would have stayed afloat. I thought he's a.
But it demonstrably didn't stay afloat. Therefore, gravity is not magnetic.
Okay, do that same experiment. Bring an opposite pole magnet.
Yes,
bring 2 magnets.
But yes, you are just proving your point. You are just proving my point.
I want to disprove what you just.
No.
Experiment. I want to disprove your experiment.
No, you are proving my experiment correct. You are claiming that things falling is due to magnetism, and then you're saying if I introduce another magnet, I can stop it from falling. Well, but if I turn them over, then they will be attracted.
Yeah, but if you turn them the other way around,
if I reverse the orientation, let's say that the Earth is a magnet. Let's say that the Earth is magnetic and that things stick to it. Demonstrably not true, by the way. Absolutely demonstrably not true. But if I have a magnet, and it is attracted, if I turn it over, it should be repelled.
Magnetic fields are more true than gravity itself. Magnetic fields are close to being true than gravity. Because we do not know what
they're not.
We know
That's
what magnetic
just an
fields
assertion.
do.
That's not based on any. That's not based on anything other than you just saying something. You have no observational evidence. You have no experimental evidence. You have no scientific literature to back you up.
Okay.
You're just making shit up in a field
if
that
I
you
don't
have
have
not
evidence,
studied and you do not know
why does
anything
your
about.
instrument contain electromagnetic components? And don't
Many
is
of
to
them,
balance
many
out?
of them do to measure. That doesn't make
That's a
them
scam.
that does not make the force that is operating electromagnetic.
If you're going to claim, if you're going to
If
claim
you're
that your
going to if you're going to
technique,
talk over
if
me
you're
as
going
soon
to
as I
claim
start answering
that
your
your
questions,
technique
this
is
is
not
going to be a
dependent on
very messy
electromagnetic
conversation. I'm not going to let you talk over me when
impulse.
I'm answering your question.
don't have it in your
No,
instrument.
You asked it right. Hold on. What's happening is you ask Tony a question, deny what he says, and then talk over him
He
responding.
talked over me. Before I was done with my question, he talks over me.
He was in the middle of responding to your question, and you start talking. So then, of course, he talks over you when you interrupt him. He is trying to respond to your questions, and you are interrupting with more and more questions. You are just denying everything he says. Of course, he is getting frustrated.
It's not everything. Of course, I agreed with
You
the
keep
matter.
calling gravity a scam, or
is not
that he's a
dependent on
scammer,
matter.
and that's
I
not very
agreed on that.
nice.
It's not everything. Yeah.
All right.
So, do I go first?
Well, let Tony finish what he was saying in response, and then you can respond without over talking him. Okay? So, Tony, do you remember what you were saying? What the response you were giving was?
Yeah. His claim was that because they have electromagnetic sensors, or they involve electromagnetic circuitry, therefore gravity is electromagnetic in origin. That is not a valid syllogism. I can measure distance using something with electromagnetic circuitry. I can use radar. I can use retroreflector. I can use lasers. I can measure distance using stuff with electromagnetic circuitry. That does not make distance electromagnetic in origin. So it is a fatuous failure of basic logic to claim that because the instruments contain electromagnetic circuitry, therefore gravity is electromagnetic.
And it's the core. But the scam will hide it. Because getting back to the electromagnetic, the gravimetry sensor, right, which is the core of your instrument, not so. So many types of gravimetry instruments contain or utilize electromagnetics or other.
Well, let's go to one. Let's go to one that doesn't. Let's go to one that doesn't.
I gave
because
you time.
saying that something is true of a lot of them.
Professor.
If there exists one where the central mechanism is not electromagnetic, then your claim is disproven.
Then it is electrical discharge, the one that does not.
No, it isn't electrical discharge. We already disproved.
It's either one of the two.
No, it can't be electrical discharge. We disproved.
Okay, let's focus on the ones that contain electromagnets. Okay, can I be done with my point?
No.
Can I complete?
You can't, because your point is fatuous.
Because I might expose your scam. Good.
No.
Don't block me. Yeah.
There's no scam.
You can claim that all you want.
You claim that the magnetic components in your instruments is not to measure gravity directly, but only to precisely control the test mass within the instrument. Okay.
That is one instrument. That is one style of instrument. There are other styles of instruments that use different different techniques. Let's go to this one. Right. Okay. So can you guys see this? It's the FG5X gravimeter. It does not use electromagnetism suspension. What it uses, as I explained in my presentation that you didn't listen to, it drops a corner cube reflector and it fires a laser at it from below. And the laser, the time that it takes the laser to get back from the corner to go up, hit the corner reflector and come back, that's recorded through time, which tracks the downward acceleration of the instrument. All right. So there's no electromagnets involved in this machine. Here's the drop chamber without. So these side carts are so this central shaft is where you drop where the drivetrain goes down. Those side carts are countermasses, so they go upwards as the drivetrain comes down, so that there's no change in the center of mass of the operation. This is the center mass itself. It's a corner mass. It's designed to be non-magnetic. Around it is a shield. This shield is to protect it from any air drag. It's also designed to protect it from any electrostatic effects from the air, though the drag-free chamber is evacuated and temperature controlled as much as we are able to. So that's the thing that goes down. Its trajectory is mapped using lasers. So there's no electromagnets involved here. But it measures gravity.
So what is the mechanism by which the presence and mass of course, distant and known object are measured?
All we measure is the acceleration that is measured by the instrument. That's all we measure.
So it's not used to do things like map unknown objects and...
It can be, yeah. But you need to process the data. All that is a result of data processing techniques. The measurement that the instrument records is just the downward acceleration of the drive carriage.
Okay, so let's take it to space. How does your method achieve comparable precision without these established physical methods? Acceleration of a test mass in a vacuum using highly precise instrument like laser. You just spoke about laser.
Yep. So let's go to the GRACE mission. This again is the mission that I helped develop some data analysis strategies for. The basic system is that there are two satellites that are following one another. There's a lead satellite and a following satellite. And what they're doing is they're continually monitoring their position and their orientation using GPS satellites and star cameras, and they're measuring the distance between them using a laser. As the satellites approach a surface, an increase in mass, there will be a difference in the acceleration that the satellites experience. So the range between them will change. The lead satellite will accelerate away from the following satellite. Then when it gets past, it will slow down and the following satellite will catch up. Then once they're both past, the following satellite will still be strongly affected by the mass. It will be accelerated backwards, and the lead satellite will be less accelerated by the mass, and it will be traveling forward. So it will again accelerate away. So this technique analyzes the range rate and the range acceleration between the two satellites. That's what this technique measures. And these two satellites are 220 kilometers apart, and they can measure the distance between them accurate to 1/1,000,000th of a meter.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm a simpleton, and I won't hold my line of thought for so long as you bring up more complex stuff. So no magnetism involved, right?
No magnetism involved.
Okay, so if that's the case, does your system use or rely on another form of energy or interaction, e.g. sound waves light waves, or electrical fields, which might be mischaracterized as a force-free gravimetry.
So yes, there is a laser that is being shot backwards and forwards between them to measure the distance. But if you're trying to suggest that the laser is applying sufficient force that it could be confused with gravity, you're very much mistaken.
Nope.
Nope.
I might be right. Think of ways.
You definitely aren't.
In that sense, think of ways this could work in those sense. Is it workable? In short,
no.
Let's just forget about gravity. Let it be you.
It's not
and you
workable.
be me.
No, it's not workable. It's a stupid suggestion that bears absolutely no relationship to reality.
So then, why is laser in your instrument?
Because the key measurable is to measure the distance between the two satellites. This is done using lasers.
Yeah, and there are other techniques used to measure distance with laser.
There are, but between two satellites, a laser is the easiest way to measure the satellite distances. It's amazing. You cannot have listened to my answer because you were talking over it.
Come on, Sam.
Which one?
Every one of them.
Literally, for the last 3 answers, you have been talking through my response.
Well,
because you're that rude and your attention span is that short.
Yeah, I can be provoking. I get it. Because, whoever gets to expose a scam is not liked. And I'm giving you points. I'm giving you hints.
No, you're not. You're making shit up. You're accusing me. You are publicly accusing me of fraud. You are publicly accusing me of fraud in violation of the 9th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness. So you better fucking know that this is a scam because you're violating your own religious precepts in order to come out here and accuse my colleagues
smartphones are spying on us. That's a scam. Public. And those are verified patents in the scientific.
Whilst Tony is having a go at you for constantly interrupting him and calling things a scam, you are still interrupting him. Do you not understand
He's interrupting me either. This is not.
Do you not see what just happened there, my friend? I, as the moderator, tried to talk and you interrupted me. Okay. When Tony is interrupting you, that's because he is trying to respond and you keep asking other questions. When you interrupt, it's just because Tony is in the middle of a sentence and you have a thought in your head you have to get out. If you want Tony to stop shouting at you, then the way to do that is to not do what you just did there and again, don't do that. That is interrupting. Stop it. Right? Stop calling it a scam, because it is Tony's job, and that means you are literally calling Tony a scammer. He gets paid good money for the job that he does.
No,
that's a stupid scam to pay him
because he believes he's working for that fame. I believe so.
There's no fame in the job that he does.
Yeah, so employers can scam you and not know. You just
Tony, for some reason, I'm not sure why, but somebody hired you and paid you a bunch of money just to lie to you about what you're doing. I mean, are you even mad at this point? You're just getting paid, you know?
Yeah,
it's just like in health. Amazing. You're a doctor. You don't develop those medications, but you're just given instructions to dispense. That's what.
No, some. I developed some. It can't be a scam. I developed completely new analytical techniques. Analytical techniques for this data.
Over me.
How about you shut up and listen for once in your life? I developed completely novel analytical techniques and so did the rest of my group, to be applied to this data. So if this data were fraudulent, it would require the people who developed it to psychically guess the analytical techniques we will develop, and then make the fraudulent data can produce consistent results for analytical techniques that had not been determined yet. It's insane. You're requiring them to predict the future because they don't know how this data is going to be used. They don't even know what's in the data. We have the gravitational data from large earthquakes. We didn't know what that was going to look like before we had it. We didn't even really know that earthquakes produced large gravitational signals. So
unmute yourself, Sam.
And again, we are able to use this to track things like the water in aquifers, the progress of floods, the progress of droughts, vegetation accumulation. We're able to use this for real world applications. Water doesn't produce a magnetic influence, right? Water doesn't produce itsarubiks is mocking me. But
Yes.
We use this to track plants which don't produce electromagnetic signals that are anywhere near strong enough to be detected from orbits. We can track the fact that neutrons fall under gravity. We can tell the magnetic field of Earth varies through time in a way that is very different from the way gravity changes through time. The magnetic field of the sun rotates once every 27 days. The gravitational field of the sun does not. So they're just completely different phenomena.
You're muted, Sam.
Okay,
There
so
we
you
go.
just you pointed out that water does not emit gravitational.
No, he said water isn't
Water
magnetic.
does have a gravitational influence.
Yes.
Water doesn't have a magnetic field. That's what I said, or it doesn't have a significant one.
Yeah, and the term is called diamagnetic, meaning it is weakly repelled by a magnetic field. So when a magnet is brought near water, yes, the water generates its own weak magnetic field that opposes the
weak magnetic field. It's not going to be detectable. It's not going. We have satellites that detect electromagnetic signals. They don't pick up the electromagnetic signals due to floods.
And what your instrument does, it weakens the magnetic field in the balance of mass. There's something to do with weakening.
None of what you said made any sense.
Let me get back to your schematic. Okay, let me pull out one of your schematics, which suggests in the superconductor thing. This is.
I feel you, Tony.
Yeah, it's.
We're the same species.
You just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. We need a break.
Because you
fine.
said.
Yeah, sure. Take all the dead time you need. This is gripping YouTube.
Oh, thank you everyone for watching and all this amazing super chat stuff. If you've got any questions for PhD Tony, or if you're sadistic, Som, then please get those in. You have to tag me or send me a DM, or best way is to super chat to get a question out for them. And we'll do that in about 20 minutes because I don't want to torture Tony for too long. I feel guilty enough already.
Okay. I'm getting there.
Oh, you're not done yet? Right, okay, no worries. Zoomicide says, I only have one question for Som. Why? Just why? Just what is that like regarding his life choices or
parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have it. Let me share the screen. You
Yep,
said
go ahead.
none of what I said makes sense because there's some shrinking
Yeah.
of magnet. So here's the screen
Sorry, did you just say there's some shrinking magnets?
of magnets. Yeah, superconducting sphere. So here, I'm right here. So the current, it says in your operation manual, the current in the cores can be precisely adjusted to balance the force of gravity on the sphere at the center of the displacement transducer. So the ratio of currents in upper and lower coils is adjusted so that the magnetic force gradient, spring constant, is very weak. As a result, a very small change in gravity acceleration gives a large displacement of the test mass. This allows for the instrument to achieve very high sensitivity. So it weakens the magnetic force. But you said none of what I said makes sense.
Yes, none of what you're making, because even if what you were claiming were true of the superconducting gravimeter, shut up, Som. I'm answering your question.
No, you are claiming. You said I claim. You can move. Go on.
No. No, I've reached the end of my patience with you, Som. You're not worth talking
Yeah,
to.
I think the moderator is failing in their primary duty
and
to
again,
maintain
just interrupt
neutrality.
Yeah,
while
Som,
I'm speaking
Tony was just
because you're
talking.
that fucking
There's no
you're that
neutrality in
fucking
this
rude,
debate.
and you are a deceitful, lying
It's a biased
scumbag
debate,
who
a rigged
accuses
debate,
people of fraud without any
kangaroo court.
basis in fact whatsoever. So you're a liar. You're a fraud. You've broken the ninth commandment. You've shown yourself to be intellectually dishonest. You've made baseless assertion after baseless assertion. And when I try to answer your questions, you just interrupt me. So I've lost all patience with you, Som. You're not an honest interlocutor. You're not a funny person. You are a creep, right? You are just a creep. And you're here to vampirize attention in order to validate your existence, because it is a desolate wasteland outside of this. This is all you have to make yourself feel significant. So congratulations to you on feeling significant for this 1.5 hours out of your day or whatever it is. But I'm done with you. You're rude. You don't listen. You don't learn. You just make shit up and then assert that you've won.
Any thoughts, Som?
Dr. Tony, the moderator's favorite opponent. So I feel this debate wasn't, it's biased debate and rigged.
No, I've tried to stay extremely biased and only try and keep the debate on track and get you to ask questions. There's no biasness there involved.
You can go through the timestamp, and I barely spoke like 2 minutes. This guy has been yapping for 5 minutes.
Right, Som, I did explain. Right, Som, stop. I'm the moderator. Stop talking. I explained at the beginning that because Tony is giving explanations, they are likely to be lengthy, because of course they have to be, because they contain nuance you have to understand. And the problem is that after 10 seconds, you have to start talking, because there is some disconnect in your brain that allows you to concentrate longer than that amount of time. You have been extremely disrespectful to Tony and me. It's not been good.
Fair time. All debates requires fair time. Okay.
Again.
This is not a debate, Som. This is me trying to teach you something, and you manfully resisting it.
Yeah, narcissism at work here. You came on a debate, and it clearly states this will be an online stream debate, and you don't call it a debate.
It's not really a debate, right? There's no preparation. There's no format. There's no points. It's not really a debate. It's a discussion, okay? And it's a discussion between you an intellectual peon and somebody with a PhD. And in that case, you should fucking listen and learn, all right?
You know, like I always say, a PhD is impressive, very impressive, but it's not an automatic win argument pattern. Respect.
No,
absolutely.
it's not. That's correct.
Blind obedience.
But so you should not listen to somebody just because they have a PhD. You should listen to them only if they can back up what they're saying with appeals to scientific knowledge, scientific publications that have been peer reviewed, that have been replicated, and that are accepted in the literature. You don't believe individual scientists, you believe science as a body of knowledge. That's how and your problem is that you simply assert stuff with no factual basis whatsoever, with no scientific validation, with no experimentation, and then you assume that it has equal grounding to the body of peer-reviewed scientific investigation. It doesn't.
Well, guess what? You and I, none of us is a scientist.
Actually, Tony is pretty much a
That's
scientist.
again just a basic lie.
No, it is. So you don't put yourself. The problem is your ambitions are way above.
No, I am a
No,
professional
he actually has
scientist.
a PhD. It's his job.
Yeah, you can attend a PhD, but
I'm a
Some-
professional scientist.
There's no integrity.
His job
And
is
humility.
being a
You lack-
scientist. That is what he does.
Yeah, he's been an indoctrinated scientist who can't think outside the box.
Well, it doesn't
get-
matter if I'm indoctrinated or not. If I'm a scientist, you lied.
Son, what is the ninth
If you're a
I said
commandment?
I wasn't a
Son,
scientist. Now you're saying I'm an indoctrinated scientist. So one of those two statements is a lie because they contradict one another.
how's that ninth commandment working
Yeah,
out for you, Son?
Sorry?
The ninth commandment says, "Thou shalt not bear false witness," doesn't it?
No, what false with? I'm only stating facts here.
You haven't
You're
stated a single
stating
fact.
that I'm a scammer. You're stating stuff
No,
that you
you are
think
employed.
might be true.
You are employed.
About the grey
services.
satellites being perturbed by. You asked a
company
question, and then
would
while
be
I'm answering it,
the
you
scam.
asked what you said that
Okay.
was not true, and I am listing them for you. You said that gravity could be due to the discharge of helium. It can't. You said that gravity could be gravimetric effects could be due to electrical discharge. I demonstrated that that was false. You said that it could be magnetic. I demonstrated that that was false. You claimed that this is a scam. That is not true either. You have no evidence for that other than you would prefer that it is. You have made false claim on false claim on false claim.
Well, those gravimetric
You said
instruments that you
another
work with
thing.
are a
Another
proprietary
thing you
of
said
the
that was
company,
false.
not yours.
You said you were coming here to learn,
I
and you
did.
absolutely have not. So that was another false claim that you've made.
There were some things to take, and some things not to take away.
Okay, right.
So I learned some things, and yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna
So this debate.
let me just check this if there's any
Is-
questions in the super chats for you first, and then you can read whatever you want to read, and then we can stop harassing Tony at the beginning of his day. Probably going back to bed after this, to be fair, aren't you? I would. That's it. My day's ruined.
Might go and hit my exercise machines and take out some frustration on them.
Don't hit them. Just
Yeah,
use them.
think about those scams, man. Study them. Don't just.
Please stop calling them a
Deploy.
scam. Som.
Shut
That's
up, Som.
yeah.
I know you feel it. You got this burning desire to look into stuff and don't just use them. Just 'cause you're
Tom,
employed.
you don't have
In order to
anything
impress
worth
your
listening
employers.
to.
Okay,
Craig
right.
and I were talking and exchanging pleasantries. That was not an opportunity for you to talk.
Yeah. So, the main question in the audience is, have you learned anything today?
Yeah, I've learned one thing, that you can be a PhD holder, but lack humility. and be a narcissist at the same time.
Of all the things that have never happened, that never happened the most. Okay?
No hard feelings, Tony, but I'm not against you. I'm just against the system that employed you.
Okay, Lucasama for $20 says Som. I'm doing the mod thing. I am talking. Shut up. It's a question for you from the audience. Lucasama for $20 says Som. How can you be so willfully ignorant? Calling Tony indoctrinated is like the pot calling the kettle black. Your mind is so closed off that there aren't enough crowbars in this world to open it. How do you feel about that?
Well, there are discrepancies. First of all, gravity is not yet proven, and here is a guy who
It's
is
proven
employed by a firm, which saying it uses gravity to detect stuff and do all that hula hoop.
Yeah, it's proven, Som. Yeah, you're just too dumb to realize it. That's all.
I gotta call that. Yeah.
You got thing is, Som. You lack the intelligence to understand how things work or why they work.
Well, this.
I've got a question for you. What does your family think about you being a flat earther?
They have no idea I'm a flat earther.
Oh, why haven't you told them? Would they be very upset?
I think only one of my siblings knows. And
okay. We got a question from.
And thought, I'll look into it because things have to be questioned in life.
Yeah.
Especially if the questions make sense.
You ever wondered why you don't get invited to like family events and stuff?
If I what?
You ever wondered why you don't get invited to family events?
Yeah, because only a few people are resistant. And like we see even in movies, resistant force is always right.
Bob Null has a question. We're going to start. It's for both of you. We're going to start with you, Som. Som, have you ever developed a mathematical model to make predictions which have then been used to support or refute a hypothesis?
I mean, which mathematics am I going to use?
It's a yes or no question. Have you ever personally developed a mathematical model?
I don't conform to conventional maths.
Right, so the answer is no. Tony, have you ever developed a mathematical model to make predictions which have then been used to support or refute a hypothesis?
Yes, multiple times.
Ah, wow, that's strange.
In particular, I developed a high resolution technique for modeling surface mass loads. So if you break the surface elements down into smaller subunits as the satellites get closer. So the proximity of the satellite determines whether or not you treat it as a point mass or not. As the satellite gets overhead, you break it down into little subunits, which allows you to work the curvature and the topography in so that you get the distance to the satellite of all of those mass elements right. Another thing that I did was model periglacial lakes or paleo lakes, which are catchments that particularly develop on the edge of former ice sheets. And we got to compare my results versus the observed geometry of those lakes. So those are just two that sort of off the top of my head.
So yes is the answer. Good. Well, one of you has, one of you hasn't.
Matter. All those things will be vain when the flat earth science comes out.
It's flat earth science. Hilarious. Alison, who's an actual pilot, says for $5, Som, have you ever considered that you are simply wrong? Ever noticed that the globe matches reality every time? E.g. navigation, we use the globe.
No, GPS is fraud. Come on. The gyroscope in the gravimetry instruments, it proves to you that the gravimetry instrument is a scam.
There are no gyroscopes in gravimeters.
Okay, let me go back to your operational manual and show you a gyroscope in a gravimeter.
No, you don't need to do that. You're just wrong. You probably can't read.
Yeah. You read through your company, your manuals. There's a gyro.
All right.
In the airborne one?
Yeah, it's good. You recall, huh?
All right, guys. Last chance to get any questions in.
Yeah, but there are no gyroscopes. But there are no gyroscopes in Grace. There's no gyroscope in Ghost. There's no gyroscope in Champ. There's no gyroscope in superconducting. There's no gyroscope in the
intended use.
What are you?
Yeah, but it's so. What have gyroscopes got to do with GPS?
Airborne. You just say airborne. Airborne gyroscopes are used to map out using aeroplanes. So what are you gonna
Yes,
put
I
it?
know what an
Airborne
airborne
gyroscopes are
gyroscope
used to
is.
map
That
out
is not a
airplanes.
response to my question.
Yeah, what's your question?
So you
Don't
didn't
change.
listen to my question?
Are you surprised?
I did, and that's why I gave out that response because it matches your question.
No, it
matched the
doesn't.
question.
There are no gyros. What do gyroscopes have to do with GPS?
Steel Pulse, some
I
doesn't have a
mean,
channel.
GPS works alongside the gyroscope.
No, it
No,
doesn't.
they don't.
No, they do.
No, they
No,
don't.
they don't.
To balance the navigation.
No,
No.
they don't. I've been on GPS surveys. We didn't use gyroscopes.
So,
Well,
before we get to make Tony ill, we're going to call it there, guys. Thank you very much for the super chats and the questions. I'm going to let Tony have some final thoughts, uninterrupted, and then I'm going to let Tony tell you all where you can find him on these old internets and what exactly he does around here. Actually, there is one more question first. From Skedsy for Som says, do you interrupt yourself when you're alone? Som, do you understand how conversations work? Never mind, it was a facetious question you don't need to answer. Tony, over to you. Just a couple of minutes to go to final thoughts, and then please let everyone know where we can find you and what
about
you do.
gyroscopes. Can I get back to the gyroscope just for once?
No.
You said they don't work alongside GPS,
I said
which
no.
is false.
No,
Again.
I said what I said. What you said that they work alongside GPS.
GPS.
I said my response was GPS
No, they
operates independently of gyroscopes and vice versa. Gyroscopes
Well, if you-
operate independently of GPS.
Forgetful.
There are some applications in which they are both used, but there are plenty of applications of GPS that don't involve gyroscopes and vice versa. They overlap in one particular application. That does not mean that they work side by side in all contexts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good for clarifying your overlap. It's good that you clarified your overlap.
It's not his overlap,
say
and
yes,
he
and
only clarified
you're
your
forgetful.
stupidity. Okay. All right. Anyway,
Chicken
Tony,
head.
please have a couple of minutes, final thoughts, and then where we can find you on these old YouTubes.
Okay. My final thoughts. Well, we use gravity all the time in mineral exploration. We find minerals with gravimeters. Billions of
Metal
Gutsy
detection.
Gibbon likes to emphasize that it's the petrochemical industry, but there are actually lots of other mineral exploration industries that use. Sorry, she's talking about geochronology, but we use geochronology and gravity in all forms of mineral exploration, including metals, rare earth elements, that sort of thing. The stuff that goes into your cars, the stuff that goes into your phones, the stuff that goes into your computers. Gravimetric exploration plays a part in that. You don't notice it because why would you? Why would you care? But we rely on the accuracy of gravity and the fact that gravity has been observationally validated every day of our lives. It supports billions, perhaps trillions of dollars of economic activity. With regard to Som, many people find him charming and good-humored. I find him intensely creepy as soon as any female name or female voice is brought up. I find him intensely dishonest, and I find him a waste of time. And the fact that he knows the word narcissism indicates to me that he has a substantial problem with it. But we all saw today just how dishonest, just how much effort he puts into derailing conversations that he knows are going to destroy his positions. So, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you. Where can we find you on YouTube? What do you do around here?
I have a channel, but it's called PhD Tony. I haven't done any presentations. I kind of think I've hit sort of the limit of what I can usefully present on. I started doing some stuff and I thought, well, there are lots of astronomers out there. Astronomy Live, Red's Rhetoric, there are people with vastly more astronomical know-how than me who do a much better job of covering this material. So I haven't really felt motivated to do much recently, but
Well,
maybe I should change that.
I will pop the link to your channel in the description because I think it's a great educational resource that anyone should check out. Thank you for coming on, Tony, and I am sorry, when we meet I will buy you lots of alcohol. Som, do you want to give your final thoughts?
Peace, la profession. So,
Keep
this
it
debate
short,
on
okay? Just keep it short.
yeah, this debate on gravimetry hasn't just been about measurements, masses, or the math behind them. It's also been about trust. I followed the data, but I also followed my instincts. And somewhere along the way, it felt like intuition and evidence were pulling in different directions. Maybe that's why I walk away feeling a bit misled. Still questioning, challenging, and re-examining what we think we know is exactly how science moves forward, contrary to conventional techniques. So yeah, I trusted. I trust my intuitions, and I felt lied to.
Well,
The
to
scammers
be
couldn't
nice,
qualify the
that's
scam
because you're a fucking idiot.
beta.
You don't have a YouTube channel, do you? And we played some of your music yesterday,
do.
and I've got a
Some
lawsuit
obey.
pending because of that.
I
Because
have a
someone
bank.
got,
Some obey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one really cares. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you being here. Oh, one question more from Truth Nerds 599 says, how do you recommend a particular method of attaching a mass to your pendulum in order to maximize elongation? Yeah, you don't know how to answer that, do you? Anyway, guys, thank you very much.
Rocks with an electromagnetic.
Yeah, it was just pointing out that you're dumb. Tony, please enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it's not too bad for you. Read a fucking book. See you later, guys. Bye.
No.
Jesus Christ on a stick. I want to say thank you very much for the support you have shown me, my friends. Quite a few super chats to read out. I want you to remember that I am legally obliged to read whatever you put in a super chat. Literally anything, I have to read it. It's in the rules. Jim Daniels gifted 10 memberships, 10 of them. Thank you very much. If you just became a member, say thank you to Jim. Biggs4193 for £2 says, guy's name is an acronym for science. Oblivious moron. Yeah, yeah. Mr. E-Man says for $5, Toon already tried to talk about superconductor gravimeter. Some could ask more questions about those. No, some can't ask questions because some is not intelligent enough to do that. Odin's Rage, he's been a member for 22 months, says, and I thought flooring a living room was the most brain dead I'd feel all day. Poor Tony and Craig. Judy Bassett for €2, thank you very much. Abarax says he's been a member for a month. You're doing awesome, FTFE official. I struggled to be an effective moderator there. I wanted to jump in so bad. It hurt my brain and it hurt my soul. I need to go and scream. Itsarubiks says for $5, and are these some streams an attempt at murdering your editor? Between Rachel and the last two debates, my brain is rotting. Send help. Don't worry. What we do is once the headaches and the nosebleeds start, that's my sign to just get the next clone ready. I said too much. Odin's Rage for $2 says, oh, hello, brick wall. Yep, forehead. Zoomicide for $2 says, time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like bananas. It's a Rubiks $5 says, also Som versus Oakley. Do you mean you have me make it happen if we get 17 more super chats? No, I am going to introduce Som to Oakley. I feel I owe that to everybody. I feel like having Oakley scream at Som could be quite funny. Jim Daniels for $2 says, water is wet. Is it? Is it, Jim? Or does water make things wet? Rachbot for $5 says, I'm going to need an upgrade or I'm going to start trying to melt water. Oh my god, well that needs to be a fucking clip. Rubiks, why is it not a short already? Why is that not a short already, Rubiks? Prixie Purple member for 4 months says, I wanted to learn about gravimeters. Could Tony come back sometime and teach us about gravimeters without the Flerf? I could arrange that. That could actually be fun. Rubiks for $5 says, I swear I've aged 10 years in the 4 I've been subscribed to you. Did you break time? Am I in a time bubble making shorts? What have you done? There is a warrant out for my arrest with the time police. Do not worry, I will deal with it. I'll just break time some more. Rubiks says for $2, I really want the Son versus Oakley. 11 more super chats. I'm going to make it happen, don't worry. Bob Knoll says for $2 for the goal. I say for the horde. And then Bob Knoll says for the swarm. Shitsy49 says for $2, approaching the goal, don't hit the brakes. Industrial Herd says live for the swarm. Omicron John for €2 says Son versus Oakley, let's go. Rachbot for $2 Australian says you're not smarter than a rock, Som, let alone Tony. I mean, Tony's definitely smarter than a rock. I know that's what you meant. Shedsy says for $2, I wonder if Som interrupts himself when he's alone. The answer is no, he interrupted himself. He couldn't hear the answer. Don Connard for 50 Donkey Kong dollars. If two antimatter particles collide, create matter, will Som and Oakley meeting create intelligence? No, that just could never actually fucking happen. Truth Nerds 249 says wacka wacka, cracker cracker. Crackatoni came out today. Can we get some Crackatoni emojis in the chat, please? Truth Nerds 599 says Som barely spoke 2 minutes. To be fair, I think Som means is that he talked a lot, but said nothing. Bob, no, need more super chats. No, I need more super cats and super hats, actually. Please send super hats. Jeremy Blackheart for $10 says, can I have some facepalm protection, Craig? My frontal lobe is sweating. I may need to make some more and get them sent out. Then we got NA for Bacon, who's been a member for 61 months, gifting 10 memberships. Thank you very much. That is incredibly generous, guys. What a fantastic stream. What a dumpster fire. My brain hurts. It is very sad, and I'm sorry to PhD Tony for ever making you do that. Please don't hate me. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm going to take a couple of days off. Still dealing with things around here. My father-in-law is very ill, and I want to spend a couple of days with my wife, just keeping her company. It's been very hard since my mum died. I don't feel quite right. And doing everything, including streaming, has been very, very difficult. Just generally living my life is a chore right now. And I wake up every day waiting for that feeling to go away. I missed you, Mum. And I feel lost without you. But you guys keep me here, keep me happy. The super chats and the support are what allow me to continue what I do. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for continuing to support the channel. And I will spend the next year doing everything I can to build it back up and hit that 100,000 subscribers. You guys can help by liking the stream if you haven't already, subscribing if you're not a subscriber, turning on the notification, and if you have notifications on, do me a favor, turn them off and then turn them back on, because YouTube has glitched out and a lot of people aren't getting notifications. Oh, where Frisbee? This is Frisbee. Frisbee's an angry kitty cat all of the time. Aren't you? Hey? I'm scared having you so close to my face. Her tail's going. I'm putting her down. I don't know how you got in here. The door's not even open. When did that door open? Did anyone see that happen? But yeah, thank you very much for everything. I really appreciate it. And I love you too. I love all of you. Not you, Gary. Sit down. If you are able to support the channel with super chats or even a donation via PayPal, will be very, very, very much appreciated, and will certainly help me, because it's been a bit of a fucking rough month for me, guys. Emotionally, mentally, financially, everything. So thank you very much for your support, and I'll be back in a few days. There will be shorts still coming out because Rubiks is the GOAT, and I've got a video that Rachbot made that I need to release. So thank you very much, and I will see you all soon. Remember, everyone, that stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth.